What's good, everyone? How y'all doing today? It's Preach It to Him Chris off the Teach It to Him Chris YouTube channel, where I go over various producer development, artist development, and music industry advice for y'all. So let's jump straight into it. Today I got a really special video in store for y'all. Today I'm going to be going over how to make Los Angeles and SoCal hip hop. So let's jump straight into it. Give me some feedback. Please watch the video all the way through. It just helps out with the algorithm. Leave a like and subscribe. But let's jump straight into it. So first of all, I want to go over what is Los Angeles or SoCal hip hop, what it looks like for today, and let's discuss that real quick. So first of all, the LA scene in terms of hip hop is going to look like a sort of post movement of the West Coast West Coast hip hop, from the 90s and even the early 2000s. It has definitely changed over the years post 2020, where you have a lot of the club scene and the simple stuff kind of coming out now. So what does it sound like? So Los Angeles hip hop is going to sound very simplistic. There is going to be a lot of similarities between a lot of the beats that are prominent and are making the hit records nowadays. Some of the biggest things to keep in mind is sort of the space that Los Angeles hip hop beats give to the rappers, as well as some of the percussion that is prominent and melodies, and even the BPM tempo is going to all be similar. They all have their tendencies. So let's jump straight into it. I'm going to just mute these tracks real quick and let's go over the first instrument. So the first instrument that I use is sort of a pad. This pad, I made it a little bit jumpy with a halftime as well as a gross beat. So I have this saw gate tube I'm going to play it with and without. It's going to give it just a little bit more character. So this is what I have from Xenology. So that is just sort of a little pad that I have going on right now without the halftime and the gross beat. This is what it's going to sound like. So I added this halftime just because it gives it a little bit just more variation. It doesn't sound so forced or like the notes are super isolated when played out. So the halftime gives it this effect, sort of a tempo effect. So every 4 bars, it's going to play over again, or 1/4 of a bar, my bad. And this gross beat gives it this sort of jumpy tempo, almost like a gate. But I think these are 6s right here. I just wanted to give the beat a little character to it. So when you're making your melodies, try out different things. Some things gotta hit eventually, as long as you have your chords together. It's kind of hard making the pads for me from scratch, just because I really like that airy sound, or just having things differentiated. So let's talk about the next component. So in this, it's going to be an octave jump. So when we get into the next bar, to give the beat some dynamic, I added an octave jump, which means that I pitch shifted 12 semitones or just went a whole octave up. Cool. So let's move on to the next instrument that I added. I really wanted this beat to sound sort of high tech. So I did this little, if I can find it, this little sort of tech sounding synth. Just to give the beat a little bit bounce and to add some musicality to it, next I used a trumpet, if I'm not mistaken. So another component that I want to talk about in terms of Los Angeles hip hop is that a lot of the ethnic sounds are going to be used in there. So you have different Latin sounds or different African American sounds in there that really gives the beat character and sort of a colloquialism in terms of sound. Next, let's talk about the. Actually, let me play that all together real quick. So this is the melodies all together. So I really wanted this beat to sound a little bit more futuristic and sort of pushing the boundaries. So I made it very, in terms of melody, the melody is a little bit more on the complicated side, but the drums is what makes it very simple. So 808, spins 808. I added a couple sides in there, just like adding sort of my own flavor to the beat. This component next is going to really differentiate this as a West Coast LA hip hop beat, but it's these hi hats, which are really simple, and they're going to be coming in nothing too fancy with hi hat rolls, but this is what it came up with the hi hats. So next I have some claps. You could also use a reverb snap with it too, but I wanted to use the claps for dynamics. Awesome. So next I want to talk about the percussion sounds that are really going to differentiate this beat as a West Coast or LA type beat, and even some interchange with Bay Area or NorCal beats is the use of stomps, clavs, shakers, rims, and other various percussive instruments. When you hear this and you are a Los Angeles or SoCal native that likes hip hop, you'll know. You just kind of have that intuition. But I made it really simple. I just added a couple stomps and rims, as well as at the end of the bar, I added a stomp to disc um, transition. Since the melodies were sort of more on the complicated side, I wanted to make sure that I left a lot of space for the drums. But let me play the drums all together, uh, including the kick as well, which are just going to layer the 808s. So you wanna, when you're making your drums, make sure you got that little head nod to it. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but the beats are going to primarily be around 90 to 105, or even 110 if you're looking for a little bit something a little bit more quicker. Okay, so let's play that beat all together and let's analyze it. of the characteristic side of LA beats, hip hop beats. So, pads and pianos and electric pianos are going to be the main foundation for most of the chord progressions that you're going to use in LA type beats. So, I know that I use this sort of stabby pad, but this works too. If I play it, it'll still work. It sounds a little janky when you do an octave jump, so that's why I added those presets along with it. Another thing, embellishments. You could also use something like a sign lead or a different types of leads that will really solidify as Westcoast. When you think about some of the greats like Ice Cube or Tupac or some of the LA greats, to use a lot of different sign leads and stuff like that when they were integrating their beats to their raps. So next, let's talk about something else that I didn't use in this beat, which are synth basses. You could also use synth basses in replacing the 808s in order to have a different vibe. If you don't want to use 808s, you could also use synth basses. These synth basses are usually going to be more on the crunchy, or um, they are going to stand out, is what I'm trying to say. So using slides and different tempos like that, you could make a really cool synth bass. And what I've noticed is that the synth basses are interchangeable with funk basses as well. So just to keep that in mind when you are making your basses, your bass lines. Okay. So next, let's talk about the drum patterns. So usually you're going to have that clap coming in on the fourth notch or the fifth notch. So playing that. Clap is going to hit on the 2 and the 4. Keep that in mind. This hi-hat, the hi-hats are going to be really simple if you're going to try to make beats for artists like AZ Trike or Mike Sherm or Ralphie the Plug. Then these work very well in West. Those really bouncy hi-hats. In terms of the basses, you can even leave some space in the middle. I know that this is more definitely like a Detroit tempo, if that makes sense. But you could also leave some space in the middle if you would like. So let me just try to demonstrate that for y'all. So yeah, you can leave space in between for your 808s as well. Another thing that I want to reiterate is just the use of percussion as well. You're going to be using different stomps, different claves, rims, and even other percussion to really solidify the beat as a LA or SoCal hip hop type beat. Okay. Lastly, I would like to say that when you are making type beats, it is okay to use different things, use different themes in the song, or use differentiation in the song to make it your beat. You don't have to sound super cookie cutter in any of your beats. That is the last thing that I want to mention. But that is how you make LA hip hop and SoCal type beats. Thank you for tuning in to the Teach It to Him Chris YouTube channel. This is Preach It to Him Chris. Y'all have a blessed night.